Video.
Good evening and welcome, Pueblo, Colorado. It is February 17th, 2026, 5:30 p.m. And I will now call this work session for Pueblo City Council to order. I would like to take a moment. The chair will recognize Councilor Latino, and he will introduce some of our guests that we have in our chamber today.
Thank you. It's my honor this evening to welcome.
Oh.
I thought you heard. This is for. Oh, I'm sorry for the people online. I apologize. I would like to recognize this evening the Pueblo Stylers Boxing Club Incorporated, and their headquarters is at 205 North Main Street. It's a great organization with great leadership and great young people involved. And it warms my heart when I go down the street at 6 o'clock at night or 7 o'clock at night and I see these young kids going around the block and their coaches there with them after they've had a workout. It's a great organization. I would like to recognize Mr. Scott Gomez, their leader and director. He's the president of the Pueblo Stylers Boxing Club Incorporated. He's been with them since 1976. He's an amateur boxer himself. He's also past president of the United States Association of Boxing and Regional Four Corners director. He is currently a silver level boxing coach for the U.S. boxing team. He's trained for over 32 years. The Pueblo Stylers Boxing Club was established in 1972. The club was never incorporated until 2002. That year, Mr. Edward Apodaca handed over the club to me. I then incorporated the club and became a 501c3 nonprofit organization. It's my honor this evening to recognize him and his staff, and in particular the young people that are here with him. We have Robert Martinez, one of the coaches, and then we have Layla Romero, 8 years old. Layla, would you stand up, sweetheart, please? That's Layla. She's one of our boxers. She's one of my youngest and the newest boxer. She is dedicated and trains hard for our boxing club. She will compete in Kansas City, Missouri on February 23rd to 28th, 2026. She's competing at the National Silver Tournament. She won the state and regional tournaments to advance to this level. Congratulations, my dear. Cecilia Hernandez, 11 years old. She's one of our boxing stars. Cecilia was two-time national title, Cecilia won 2 national titles in 2025. The 2025 National Silver Gloves Championships in Kansas City, Missouri. She also won the 2025 USA Boxing National Championships. Congratulations. In Lubbock, Texas, Cecilia is scheduled to compete on March 10th to 15th, 2026 in Colorado Springs at the 2026 National Women's Championships. Ethan Knutson is 15 years old, has been with us for 5 years. Ethan is a great kid. Trains very hard, and his dedication is second to none. He's one of our boxers with the most bouts. He has competed all over the country in many national events. Ethan is scheduled to compete in the 2026 National Junior Olympic Championships in Wichita, Kansas in 2026. Cash Sloan is 17 years old. Cash, would you stand up? Has been with us for 5 years. Cash is an amazing athlete, losing over 50 pounds. And became a new person. Cash recently competed in the 2026 International Boxing Championships right here in Pueblo, Colorado. Cash lost a split decision to the #1 ranked boxer in the United States of America, the USA. Cash is now ranked #2 in the USA. He will also be competing in the 2026 National Silver Gloves Tournament in Kansas City, Missouri on February 23rd to the 28th. Cash won the state and regional titles recently, devastating his opponents in Colorado and California. Julian Galvez is one of our adult boxers. Julian is a local teacher. Julian is a local teacher at USC Pueblo. I know Julian. and at the Colorado School for the Deaf and Blind in Colorado Springs. He's also one of our newest members. Julian is scheduled to compete at the 2026 Colorado State Golden Gloves Championships in Longmont, Colorado on April 2026. We have over 20 boxers in our club, ranging from beginners to elite boxers. They all must have passing grades in school to compete and be a member of our club. Thank you for your time and support with our local organization. Sincerely, Scott Gomez, President. Scott, thank you. Thank your staff and thank these young people. God bless you. We're with you in any way we can possibly be with you. Thank you. God bless you.
On behalf of the council, I just would like to thank each of you for joining us in our chamber today. Thank you so much. I really appreciated the opportunity to hear all the wonderful things that the youth in our community are doing, and wishing you all the best of luck. After you all are done competing, I would invite you to come back and tell us how it went and how you were successful. Thank you all for coming.
Can we get a picture?
Sure. Yeah.
Come on down. Let's get a picture.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you all compete, folks that are going to compete, if you want to come down in front of the dais and we'll take a real quick photo.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, moving along with our agenda, the chair will recognize Mayor Graham for 5 minutes for city updates.
Thank you, Chair. First, I'd like to start off thanking our first responders today for the response to the I-25 fatal accident with multiple vehicles. This was a coordinated response from more than 20 agencies, including AMR, Beulah Fire, Rye Fire, Rural Fire, Colorado Springs AMR, Public Transit, District 60, Emergency Service Bureau with Pueblo County, West Park, Pueblo Fire, Pueblo Police Department, Pueblo Fire Department, City Dispatch, UC Health Parkview, Common Spirit, St. Mary Corwin, Pueblo County Coroner's Office, Pueblo Department of Public Health and Environment, Pueblo County Sheriff's Office, American Red Cross, CSU Extension's Office, CART Team, Colorado State Patrol. Today, we stood up the Emergency Operations Center at a level 2 and had many agencies provide assistance during a tragic accident involving passengers, travelers, livestock, pets, and others. We just want to again thank everybody who responded during such a difficult time due to the high winds and brownout conditions. I'm really proud of the collaboration today, and I think that City Council will actually be going to the EOC on March 30th. So you'll have a better idea of what I'm talking about, and you'll get to see firsthand what an operations response looks like. When I first became the mayor, I did a training there, and I thought to myself, geez, I wonder when we're ever going to have to use this. And in the last 2 years, we've used it a ton of times. And so I think it's really important for City Council to be able to be a part of an EOC training exercise. So again, thank you to all of our very brave first responders. The conditions out there today were unimaginable. Thursday, February 19th is the Building Back Bessemer Town Hall. The City of Pueblo and Pueblo Urban Renewal Authority will be presenting the first of multiple town halls regarding the Building Back Bessemer initiative. The first town hall takes place on Thursday, February 19th from 6 to 8 at Steelworks Center of the West, located at 215 Canal Street. And Wednesday, February 25th is the Public Transit Open House at Barkman Library in the community room from 5:30 to 7. Come to the open house and ask your zero emissions questions about how new hybrid upgrades and find out the plans for the new Pueblo Transit facility. And that concludes the announcements, and I'd be happy to take any direction from council.
Thank you, Mayor Graham. Moving along in our agenda, the chair will recognize Gil Romero. Is he ready on Zoom?
Yep. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Mayor Graham, President Aliff, members of City Council. Thank you for the time this evening. Wanted to give you a quick or an update on the bills that you took positions on. I believe it was 2 weeks ago. We appreciate the discussion and debate that took place on those bills, and wanted to give you a quick update on 2 of them. The most important bill and the most impactful bill for the city is Senate Bill 70. Uh, as you know, this bill would place significant and unworkable restrictions on law enforcement's ability to use automated license plate reader, ALPR technology, and other historical location information. Cities and towns are already on the front lines of creating reasonable guardrails around this technology. Just wanted to let you know that bill is going to be heard on Monday. And as you go out into the community and you need information on these bills that you've taken positions on, we're happy to provide you the fact sheet. Just wanted to let you know that with respect to Senate Bill 70, because it is the most important bill, what this means to victims of crimes, if this bill were to pass, it delays identification of suspects. It prevents the loss of evidence the loss of evidence before it can be used. Fewer investigative tools for property and violent crimes, reduced ability to solve and connect crimes, and increased burden on courts for in terms of delayed justice. So that bill will be heard on Monday. Just wanted to let you know that Ryan and Alec have been working closely with the Colorado Municipal League. We believe that bill it has the governor has significant concerns with that bill. We believe that if it were to get it to his desk, he would veto it, but we haven't gotten confirmation on that. We will get confirmation. We're hoping that we get some really good testimony on Monday, and we're hoping that we can defeat this bill on Monday. The other bill that I wanted to give you a brief update on is House Bill 1071. That's the bill that you took a position of support. This particular bill, current Colorado law permits only the state to place automated vehicle identification systems on federal interstate highways while prohibiting local governments from doing so. The bill removes that prohibition for county, cities, and allows them to use the AVIS on interstates. There wasn't an amendment. Talked to Representative Morrow about it this evening. They took out the counties, but counties aren't able to use their law enforcement on interstates, but would allow municipalities, including Pueblo, with that particular amendment. That bill passed out of committee this afternoon. With that, I'll turn it over to Alec to talk to you about some current legislation that we're following on behalf of Pueblo.
Good evening, members of council, and to the mayor and to staff. There's one housing bill we would like to bring forward to you tonight. It deals with land use. It's House Bill 261114, allowed minimum lot size for subject jurisdictions. This bill will be heard in its first committee of reference tomorrow. And so this is a housing bill that would establish a statewide cap on minimum lot sizes for single family homes. This is a land use bill that would impact how municipalities set minimum lot sizes for single family housing. So starting October 1st, 2031, the city would not be allowed to require a minimum lot size larger than 2,000 square feet for homes that are served by municipal water and sewer. And so it's our understanding that most single family zoning districts in Pueblo are zoned for 4,000 and 5,000 square feet. So if this bill passes, the city would need to amend those standards to comply with the 2,000 square foot cap. This bill does provide some exemptions. It doesn't apply to properties on wells or septic systems and parcels not served by municipal water and sewer or certain historic properties. So from a municipal perspective, the primary issue for us in advocating for you is local control. Minimum lot size has traditionally been a local zoning decision. It's tied to comprehensive planning and growth management tools. So this bill would remove that discretion and standardize it at the state level. And so for that reason, we wanted to present this bill to council this evening. I'll turn it over to Ryan. He's going to talk a little bit about transit draft that we are hearing a lot about.
Thanks, Alec. Good evening, everyone. Ryan Romero. So as Alec mentioned, I think we've probably discussed this at least once over the past couple of weeks. It's a transit bill that some city staff members flagged for us earlier this summer that they were hearing about drafts. We've been working the lobby and talking to legislators, and basically the draft we saw about a month ago is still the most current draft. So this, and I should have started with this, but this transit bill draft would establish a new statewide minimum standard for public transit agencies aimed at improving access for low-income riders and individuals experiencing homelessness. So this would require Pueblo Transit to establish what they're calling in this a partner pass program by June 30th, 2027. And that would require coordination with local housing authority and homelessness service providers to provide at least 6 months of unlimited fixed route transit passes at no cost to eligible individuals. The bill would also require clear posting of fare and discount information online and on vehicles, translation of key transit information based on county language demographics, and annual reporting to the state using existing data. While the policy goals focus on improving access and equity, the bill does not currently include a dedicated funding source to support these new requirements. So as drafted, implementation costs, including foregone fare revenue and administrative workload, would be a major unfunded mandate for the city. So we just wanted to bring this up again tonight. We believe it's getting close to introduction. And as I stated, we're working with some of the other lobbyists. I think most of the major municipalities will be with us on this one if it's introduced as the last draft we've seen. So that's just something we're watching closely, and we will continue to work with the city staff when this bill is introduced.
And I will add that our senator from Pueblo, Senator Hendrickson, is on that bill. It's our understanding that he has some amendments that he wants to offer on that bill. I don't know if those amendments will satisfy the or remove the objections that the Pueblo staff have with the bill, but as soon as we get those from his office, we'll send those on to you. And with that, Madam Mayor, we'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Mr. Romero. I did notice on today's agenda or on the information that was given to us this week on legislative updates, there were some other bills here, and I'm just wanting to check in with council to make sure that they would not like more information on any of these. There looks like House Bill 1206, Senate Bill 112, 26-112, Senate Bill 26-100, Senate Bill 26098, House Bill 1130, or Senate Bill 1134. Anybody?
Yeah,
Okay. The chair will recognize Councilor Dante.
I'd like more information on the court actions related to failure to appear in court. SB 26-112.
So
I
that
go ahead.
that bill hasn't been scheduled yet. It has been assigned and introduced to Senate Judiciary. So typically what we like to do is wait till they're scheduled on the calendar. So that's the only reason we didn't bring that one up tonight.
But Senator Dante, we will get you some information on that one. Any information we have in terms of, I don't know if there's a fact sheet on that bill, but obviously we wanted to hone in on bills that we know that are going to be heard either this week or next week. But we will get you some additional information on that one, and we will be happy to present on that at our next scheduled presentation.
Okay, thank you. I also would like to know what the number is on this transit bill you were talking about.
Thank you. It doesn't have a number yet because it's still in draft form. So as soon as it's introduced, we will have that number and send it to you.
And did we send out the draft to council? We can send that out if you don't have it.
We don't have it. We do not have it.
Okay, we will get that to staff and you will have it by tomorrow morning.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Gentlemen, just as a point of clarification on this transit bill, I just want to be clear that I heard it correctly. There's city staff who are opposed to this for reason. Would you mind clarifying that, please?
So
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead, Ryan.
I was gonna say there's other municipalities. We've just been working with city staff. They identified it, I think earlier in the summer. The potential sponsors of this bill started doing stakeholders, and in those stakeholders, they reached out to a couple municipalities, transit organizations, our departments, and so that's how we were flagged to this. And since the legislative session kicked off, we have obviously heard more about it from some other municipalities and the sponsors.
Thank you. So it's all the buzz around other municipalities right now that caught wind. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, since the session started, it's kind of it's an open. The draft has been shared publicly. Prior to that, it was just a few municipalities that knew about it. I believe. I think the Colorado Municipal League probably knew about it. But the first time we saw a draft was when the session started, or maybe a little before that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Any other questions, counselors? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on with our agenda.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Okay, let's see here. The chair will recognize Laurel Campbell. Is Laurel? Come on up. And Brett, come on up. They will help us today with an update on the Goodnight Barn. Let's see.
Chair, I'd just like to add a little pre-context to why Ms. Campbell and Mr. Bowers are here tonight. So as the city is looking at different properties that we own and maintain, of course, the Goodnight Barn has come up. And for those of you that do not know, we have a wonderful nonprofit that helps facilitate, really take care of the Goodnight Barn. And so I'm going to be asking City Council to relinquish the city's ownership in the Goodnight Barn and transferring it to our nonprofit to hopefully they can successfully get more grant dollars and really make the barn into what they want. It's really hard when the city owns a piece of property and you have to ask for grant dollars based off the city's ownership of the property. So staff believes that this could be a win all around for the nonprofit and for the city. And so I asked them to prepare a presentation for those of you that do not know what the Goodnight Barn is or are unaware of its history and kind of what has happened up to this point. So that is why they are here this evening. You're welcome.
The chair will recognize Ms. Campbell and Mr. Bowers for 15 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Introduce.
I'd like to introduce some members of our board that are here as well. Gabby Marge and Jim Carpenter.
And Casey.
Oh, and Casey.
Casey's over there. Hi. And of course, Brad. Brad is our new chairperson. I'm really trying to figure out how to introduce this to you since I've been doing this for 13 years, but it takes me 45 minutes at the barn. So this is going to be skeletal, but I invite you all there to see it and hear my regular talk. So in 2013, Bill Zwick and Scott Hobson were instrumental in helping me get the barn on radar. And Bill wrote some fantastic grants for us. And we were able to once again, get it done in about 2020, 21. They even worked during COVID, but they were just a few workers. It's on Highway 96, about 3 miles west of Pueblo Boulevard. I have a couple questions for you guys. Do you know what the Goodnight Barn is? Raise your hand if you don't mind. Okay. Have you been there? I haven't seen you, so yes, Roger. And the last thing is have you ever seen the miniseries Lonesome Dove? Okay, Lonesome Dove is their story. Okay, it was written by Larry McMurtry, and he took fictional license with it, but it's about 95% perfect. And Robert Duvall just passed away the other day, and he was the star of the show. He was absolutely wonderful. You have to see this. I got to move on now because I could talk forever. We put together a quick PowerPoint. Do you want to do that? Yeah. So that you can see the restoration of the Charles Goodnight Barn on his Rock Canyon Ranch. He traveled east of I-25, maybe 5-10 miles, depending, as he went up on his cattle drive. And that's what he did. He was a cattle drive. He was the first one into Colorado and the most famous, actually. He had come into town at some point, probably for some sort of supplies, and he wandered out west a little bit and he saw that area and he said, this is where I want my ranch. And so he and Peter Dotson and Annie Blake bought the entire Gervasio Nolan Mexican land grant, which at one point was about 300,000 acres, and now, and then the government cut it down to 50 after they won the war, to open it up for more homesteaders. But still, Peter Dotson started the 3R Ranch, and then Goodnight had his ranch. They shared the property. It was huge, and they worked together. Goodnight worked with the Thatchers, all the ranchers, and to just correct a little small thing, that we honor Pueblo for its veterans and it's chili, but what was here first was ranching. And so it's really, we're talking about 1868 when he came here. In 1866, it was the first cattle drive, and he actually invented the chuck wagon so that they could feed their men on the trip. And it's become so popular. It's still used today for brandings and roundups. It was built in 1870 and 71, and his ranch hands built it. Now, we know there's a couple of things in there that are kind of fancy, and there was a Swedish carpenter family in the area. I think they might have done the big posts. But they had to, they used native Codell sandstone, which was in his own quarry, which is now under the dam. And then he, hold on just a second. Oh, then he had to bring pine in from Wetmore. There was no pine here at that time. Can you imagine bringing enough pine to do the interior of this? And they were long. The beam across was 70 feet. Getting that down here would have been a feat of its own. In 1869, Joseph McCoy, you got it. You're ahead of me. Thank heavens. Joseph McCoy included the Goodnight Ranch in this book, Cattle Trade of the West and Southwest. This is prior to the stone barn being built and on the site. For your information, Uncle Dick Wooten, if you know that name, actually had a buffalo ranch there in the 1840s, before we were even a town. Anyway, this was found by a person at a museum down in Canyon, and it was a whole book. He sent that to me. This is prior. This has got to be he wrote it in 1869, but he didn't publish till 1874. So this is an 1869 picture. You can see he had a garden and an orchard, and it was just perfect. He loved the area. In 1930, J. Ovitz Haley, Goodnight's biographer, visited from Texas and took pictures of the barn at that time. These two pictures, this one and the following, were pictures of it in about 1930. He was good friends with Robert Johnston, and Robert Johnston was a Goodnighter to the max. At that time, the barn was part of the Superior Dairy. Go ahead. Well, this is it in 74 before, I think it was before the city bought it. And you can see on the right there, there's a extension, that was the milk house. You can also see some of the original doors, which were in such horrible shape, they couldn't be restored. But the hay door up above is original, both of them on each side, with completely original. Then we have pictures of what we did at the very first. It took a $42,000 grant to put those up. But if we hadn't put it up, it would have fallen. It was 9 inches. The west side was 9 inches off at the top. And had we not started this, it would not be there. It would be gone. Then we have pictures of the inside. This is the 1870 pine from Wetmore, and most of it is original. There's a few places that we had to actually bring in new, but they made it look like hand chipping. This was all done. There was no milling of anything, the rock or the beams. This is a picture of it. We never could get in it when we first got it. It was too dangerous. And there was no light in there. And so this was the first time that they had it open where we could see where it looked like the Superior Dairy that it was for several years, decades, actually. This is a picture of it in its first inception of getting going on it. And you can see at the top where there's rock missing. At the bottom, it's hard to see behind the metal, but there was a gash in the bottom and they had to replace the rock. We were so lucky to get it when it happened. This is the only picture I could find. And it's about 1890 to 1900. You can see that it was a rock corral all the way around. I mean, everything he did was what was available to him. And of course, he didn't own it at this time, but it probably looks very much similar. There are some in the back, there are some buildings, which probably was blacksmith shop, and bunkhouse. I'm all right. And you know, getting old is no fun. Anyway, this was our very first committee. You can see Bill on the upper left. Susan Adamich died of COVID, but she was really an integral part. Went too far. My husband on the right in the back, and then I'm below him, Linda Crawford and Cindy Robinson. And we have 1, 2, 3 still on there, and we've gotten some more. We've got what, 9 now? 8 or 9. Okay. The next thing is we were asked by the chamber to be the State Fair Marshals in 2015. What an honor. We had just started this and they brought it to everybody's attention. This is a picture of Charlie when he was here about then. I think he's handsome. I always like dark-haired men. This is the finished interior before we started putting anything in there, but it is really awesome. You really need to go in and see what it is. There it is with some of the saddles in it. There's a picture of Charlie in the background. We have storyboards around the inside giving information. This is really special. Viral Goodnight is a well-known sculptor and artist from Mancos, and she has been a participant in art shows all over the country. She's very well known. She donated the Longhorn Longhorn with calf bronze, and then up above is his name is Outlaw, and James McKinney, who had a ranch in Beulah, donated that to us. And those are the two things that tell us it's Goodnight. And this was donated by the Wades and the Kirklands of Rye. And it's completely original to 1866. You'll never see anything like that anywhere else. And then we'll show a picture of the back original, or it's the back original door with the iron straps. He did a lot of special architecture, not on this door, but on the other. He had a capstone, he had coins, he had things that were a little fancy. And then the last thing that I'm going to talk about is the original initials that we found carved in the rock after we pulled a bunch of the weeds away. I could say so much more, but Brad is going to talk about our future, which is important.
Okay. Our mission is to restore, preserve, and interpret the barn Charles Goodnight and his importance to Pueblo and southern Colorado, his Rock Canyon Ranch, and just ranching in the 1860s and 70s here in Pueblo County in southern Colorado. We can mark off restore and preserve, but we're now moving on to the interpret portion, and that's where ownership of the barn will come in handy. As the mayor pointed out, we'll be able to apply for grants to work on that. The barn is significant in many ways. It's one of the oldest buildings in Pueblo County, being built in 1870, 1871.
1868. Oh, the barn.
The
itself,
barn,
Yeah.
yeah. It's also one of the most important agricultural buildings in Colorado. It's one of the few stone barns in the West from this era. Most barns, of course, were built out of wood. Charles Goodnight has even more significance that you may not be aware of. He did help kick off the cattle drive era in the 1860s. He helped grow the ranching industry in Colorado, not just in Pueblo County, but across all of eastern Colorado. One of the founders of the Stock Growers Association in Colorado, one of the founders of the Southern Colorado Agricultural and Industrial Association. They are the ones that started the Colorado State Fair. And so he's partly responsible for that. One of the organizers of the First National Bank, along with the Thatchers, as well as the Stock Growers Bank. He sold cattle to John Iliff and John Prowers and helped get their ranching empires growing. He and Prowers operated a meatpacking plant in La Junta. He had investments in businesses around Pueblo, as well as other properties that he purchased. One of those that he helped start was the South Pueblo Flouring Mill, which you know today as the Quaker Mill over on Oneida Street. Its building was partially built out of stone from his quarries. His quarries also provided the foundation stone for Pueblo Union Depot. You can't see it because it's underground, but it's there. And the new jail in 1880. So Charles Goodnight did a lot for Pueblo while he was here. This is the original master plan that was drafted when they were trying to save the barn. There are some comparable sites in Colorado that do living history and interpret farming and or ranching in Colorado. One in Colorado Springs, the Rockledge Ranch, Beckwith Ranch in Westcliff, 17-mile historic park. But we would like to see this happen here in Pueblo. We would like to build an interpretive center with exhibits, build it to look like the bunkhouse perhaps. We'd like to have a meeting room, gift shop. We would like to plant the orchard and gardens back where they originally were. The old house that he built for his wife burned down in 1884, but we'd like to find the footprint of it and perhaps build a picnic pavilion on the side of it. There are no photos of the house, so we don't know what it looked like. Throughout the 1870s, all the way into the 1890s, the Denver and Rio Grande Railway ran trains, usually on Sundays, up to the ranch site from the depot. And people came out to picnic and just party at Goodnight's Ranch, and when it was owned by others later on. The rails exist up to 3/4 of a mile close to the barn. And, pipe dream, maybe run trains again from the depot out to the barn. We'd like to be able to hold events. We've held chuck wagon roundups before. We've held art shows before. We'd like to continue to do those. There's a huge, need for places that want to hold Western themed events, ranching related events, especially weddings. So that's something we could tap into. We've had 2 chuck wagon roundups there in the past. The last one was in 2023. The chuck wagon roundups drew a huge crowd for the barn. And so it was, wonderful for people to come out and experience the barn and chuck wagons and get a sense of what that life was like. As I said, we could, recreate some of the buildings there. We'd like to put a windmill back in and try and build the campus up to what it looked like in the 1870s. The original plat, you can see there was a railroad siding right there at the barn, and that's where the train would come and drop people off. That was the original Goodnight stop. And just overlaid what we would like to do eventually if we have the barn and extra land to go with it. where we can put in interpretive center, put in the orchard and the windmill.
We need to go back, oh, you got more?
Mr. Bauer, the chair will recognize for 2 more minutes.
Oh, okay.
Could I just mention something I forgot that is kind of important? At that point,
Where'd you
the
want it?
bison, pardon? Oh,
The bison. Okay.
yeah, the bison were being decimated. Biggest reason was so that the Indians couldn't live anymore. But Molly Goodnight and Charlie decided they were going to save the babies after the mothers were killed, and they brought them to their ranch, and that is the only southern bison herd with the original DNA in the United States. The northern is different. So we just have to thank them for saving our bison. And that, yeah. Questions? Yeah.
I realize I rushed through that last part, but
And that's my
I will,
fault.
I will gladly take questions.
Thank
Any
you. Council? The chair will recognize Councilor Latino.
I just want to commend you for this. I've been there a number of times and it's a great venue. It's history. And the more we can do to expand that history in this community, the better we're going to be. We got the Da Vinci Museum coming. We have the Goodnight Barn. If we can expand that, man, we're going to have tourists everywhere. Okay? So
Great.
I commend you and I'll help any way that I can. I'm sure the rest of the council will do the same thing, as will the mayor. Thank you.
The chair will recognize Councilor Dante.
I was wondering, is this a historical building?
Yes, it's on the National Register of Historic Places. In
Thank you.
1974, they put it on there. Yeah. The Colorado, History Colorado, the State Historic Fund said that it was the most significant architectural, agricultural building in Colorado. So we're real proud of it. It needed to be saved.
It's a hidden gem.
And if anybody cares to come out, you go to our website there, my phone number is on there. If you all wanted to come at once, that would be absolutely fabulous. I'd love to have you. We are looking to do more events and we're hoping to possibly get some more land down. And that's what's preventing us from doing any of the big events, because we don't have parking. So
The chair will recognize Councilor Hernandez.
This question's for the mayor. Do you have a time frame on when you plan to relinquish ownership to the nonprofit?
It might be on the agenda. Is it on the? It's on the agenda for first reading on the 23rd.
And I failed to thank all of you when I first sat down. How rude of me and the mayor for actually going ahead with this. And I know that, I'm sure Steve had something to do with that because we bothered him a lot. But you guys were always wonderful. I had nothing but great work with Scott and Bill and everybody. They were just wonderful. I can't thank them enough.
The chair will recognize Councilor Gomez.
I hope I didn't miss this, but did you, have you had a lot of involvement with the schools, District 60, District 7?
We have, I'm in the process of trying to get a hold of them now. The problem is transportation. They do not want to pay for the buses, so we would have to pay for the buses. We might be able to, now Brad has brought his classes out in their own cars, but we can't do that with little kids, but the children that have been there, and I have had some, have absolutely adored it, especially the boys.
Do you have any kind of cost quotes at all on any of that? for the
I'm sorry?
buses? Any cost quotes in reference to the buses, what it would take to get you a bus?
No, not yet. Our budget doesn't include that yet. I do charge $10 to come in, and I never did that until a few months ago. I always did it on my own, and I don't take any of that. That always goes in. And we are a 501c3, by the way.
Okay,
So there's all little things that I forget to mention, but they're important. So
thank you.
Any other?
Yes.
The chair will recognize Councilor Boston.
Thank you. On average, how many visitors do you guys have a year, if you were to guess?
that's hard to say.
It just depends how many events we hold. With the Chuck Wagon Roundups, we had 300 to 400 at a time. Average on monthly, we've just started monthly tours in the late summer and fall. We're not doing them in the winter because the barn is cold. But we usually had about 20-25 a month.
Yeah, we hope to include, increase that with more marketing we are thinking of art shows. Don't we have had a couple of art shows, but maybe one at the barn where it really talks about the Western flavor. And we have some excellent artists in this area. Just wonderful.
Well, I think there's nobody that would care about this building more than you guys, so. We can
Yes,
get it.
till my dying day. 13 years is a long time, but you know what? I loved every minute of it.
Well, thank you for taking care of our asset. Hopefully it
And he
becomes
is
your
wonderful.
asset soon.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Ms. Campbell and Mr. Bowers, thank you so much for your service to the city of Pueblo and in maintaining this beautiful barn for our city. We wish you luck in your venture and moving it forward. And seeing none, we thank you for coming. Looks like council doesn't have any other questions at this point, so we thank you for coming to visit with us today.
Thank
And have
you.
a great evening.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure and always an ulterior motive, get you guys out there.
For
Thank
sure,
you.
we'll do a visit. Okay. Next on the agenda, the chair will recognize Randy Thurston and Dave DeCenzo from the Energy Commission. Thank you.
Well, City Council, I want to thank you for allowing us to have a chance of introducing ourselves as the commission. We've been doing some things over time, kind of getting our feet under us, but this is our first opportunity to get feedback and questions and things from council as we really think that with Dave and I, and we're both two in the box, we're bringing it forward as a new commission that is really interested in the future of Pueblo. And bottom line is affordability and reliable energy really is the key for Pueblo's future. It's key for Pueblo's growth. It's the absolute critical magnet to have the expanding tax base. You know, you look at any community that's succeeding out there and you look at the ones that are growing and prospering, guess what they have in common? They have affordable energy that is allowing people to come in and be part of a community. So this council will have the chance to really have access to this commission and asking questions and kind of setting some direction of what your thoughts are. Again, like I said, this is our first introduction and we really want to introduce the concept of what we're about. And I'm going to turn it over to Dave DeCenzo to share on the overhead, what this commission's basic foundation is.
Mr. DeCenzo, before you begin, I just wanted to make sure you knew time is 13 minutes and 30 seconds.
I couldn't hear what you said.
Your time is 13 minutes and 30 seconds.
Right.
Just wanted to make sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're
Will there be
welcome.
time after that for questions?
Yes.
Oh, okay, great. That's fantastic. So this is a slide set that Jody Hendershot prepared when we did our brainstorming session. And this isn't the first thing we want to talk about, but I just wanted to show it to you. They've done quite a bit of work and she did an excellent job. And this was the bottom line here where we had these three committees here. So we appreciate any questions you'll have. So here's, and telling us what you think our job is. So here's the first slide. And naturally we just want to familiarize with you with our stuff. So we did we were established by city council, the previous city council in January of 2025. And the original Pueblo Commission on Energy was established in 1977. So it's quite a long time it's been in an operation. It had been a Pueblo Energy Advisory Commission was done by the previous administration and those are the ordinance numbers 9902 and in 2021. So that was the first time. You can go read those if you want to find out what what's what. But but the goal was just the city to reach the pledge of 100% electrical energy generation by 2035. That was in March of 2021. And it was that resolution was made by in 13/6, I think it's 12, on February 13th, 2017. So that was when Sierra Club came to town and wanted us to be 100% renewable, and many other places, made that pledge. In particular, the county did. And that was done in April of 2018, the county. But the council discontinued the Pueblo Energy Advisory Commission in January of 2025, citing the rising cost of electricity. So that's what the last council was concerned with, different from the previous council. So in 2025, in the summer in June, the previous council approved 10 appointments, the nominations, and there are two tranches. There are 2-year, and the initial is 2-year, and then there's a set that are 4-year. So I think in the future, they'll all be 4-year. So terms, but the people are Patty Olnick, Ken Dante, who's here, Randy Thurston, James Bernal Jr., Tony Husky, George Andrews with Steel City Solar, myself, Taylor O'Neill, Mason Finn, and Jody, who did that colorful presentation. I use black and white because it saves money. And Andrew Hayes has been our city staff representative, and he missed the last meeting, but he said he's coming back. He's definitely not abandoning us. So let's see what else we got here. So we meet in the Public Works Building, which is right next to the Justice Center. And the regular meetings are on Wednesday, the first Wednesday of each month. And the next meeting is March 4th, if any of you wish to attend. It is on a Zoom link that you can look at. So Pueblo Commission on Energy. Wait a minute. We have a special non-voting meetings on the 3rd, 4th, or the 2nd Wednesday. We've had 2 of those so far. One was the brainstorming session that made that set of slides. And we had Black Hills Energy come in and explain the electric bill and how to read it. I was shocked. I didn't know how to read a bill, and that thing explained it. It was John Vigil came in, did a great job, and that I think is available online to listen to. Yeah, they're recorded live. The Zoom meetings are recorded live and mentioned on city pages, and the public is welcome. We want to hear from the public before we do a survey. If we do a survey, I think we will. But we do want to hear from the public, and we've had several people come and speak. Laura was one of them, so she comes and talks. And we had Tom Corbett from Canyon City, I think, or Pueblo West, wherever he's from. So the officers were elected. It was chair. Randy Thurston was the chair, but he's now the vice chair. And I was elected vice chair, and I'm now the chair. But as Randy said, we're 2 in a box. That's a term from industry, meaning that there are 2 presidents and they check each other and make sure that things are going well. It's a way to have, continuity between if someone's out sick or anything. And the secretary is Tony Husky. So the bylaws, we were given a set of bylaws, and we approved them unanimously after some modifications, and they were reviewed by the city law department. And we dismissed the dismissal rule. If a member doesn't attend, we figure they've lost interest or something. And if they don't attend for 3 unexcused absences from regular meetings, I think we've had very few of those. Randy's been excused, but we're doing pretty good, I think. So, as I said before, Jody compiled our brainstorming work session, into a really nice presentation. And at the end there, we divided into 3 subcommittees. One was educate the public. So we found that we think that the public doesn't understand how to save energy and what the rebates are and the LEAP programs and things like that. So Black Hills does a pretty good job of putting that stuff up, but if people aren't made aware of it, they can't save money or it's harder for them to save money. So it's available assistance programs. We want them to see how to do conservation or efficiency, do that survey that we talked about. That was one of the brainstormed ideas. And there are energy awareness events that happen on an annual basis and maybe semi-annually, and they give out lots of information, and they might even run programs. So that would be one thing that educate the public group will do, and they're the team that's furthest ahead. They are probably, next time we come here, it'll probably be them that comes to make things aware of it. So we have a research. The people on that educate committee are Taylor, Patty, and Jody. And then the research, public needs and opportunities, and that's long-term energy rates, electrical rates with Black Hills. What can we do to make sure or facilitate them not raising the rates? So but we haven't really got into that too much. Manchi closings, of course, is a big concern. And there's a proposed natural gas increase from Xcel, and I've heard several different numbers, but one of the numbers is 20.6% increase. And that's a significant increase. I've also heard 10.4, so it's a wide range, and it's going to go before the puck. And part of the reason for it is that we're asking the natural gas company to, reduce their emissions. And so that means, they have deadlines, mandated deadlines. So that means that they will have to compress the amount of time they get their money back from any things that they do. So, so we want to also figure out how we can attract businesses with our electric infrastructure. And so Ken and I are the members of that team are Tony, James, Ken, and Dave. So, and then there's a group of people who are to inform and advise you and come before you and do this kind of a presentation with what we found and advise you. And that's Randy, Mason, and George. And so the things that we talked about in August 20th when we had the meeting, what the brainstorm meeting was, the off-ramp options, reliability, affordability, and a few other topics having to do with quality of service to the customers. So we hope to present our detailed subcommittee work progress at future work sessions and anything you want to say?
So this really is about letting you know that we want to be a tool for city council, a tool of information and resources and bringing forward things that are factual and all geared towards how can Pueblo attract and what are the options of the most affordable rates. Again, when you have that available to city council and know that what we bring forward will be factual and information that is valuable, that's why this introduction was important for you to have that in mind. So based off of that, it comes down to there's a lot of noise out there. And noise, if it's noise of disconnection, of battling, fighting, name calling, everything like that, you never get to the noise of what can we do for this community. And I think council, if we can bring the right kind of noise that you guys can absorb, I think is really important. And with the noise, we've done our research. We have the meetings that people will be coming to and have been coming to really break down the information, the facts. So when it's brought to you, it's clean. And based off of that, I really want to open it up for feedback, questions, input. What is it that you would like to use this commission as a tool for?
I know, Ted, you had asked about data centers. Did you?
The chair will recognize counselors if they're interested in posing questions to our guests. The chair will recognize Counselor Hernandez. Thank you.
Dave asked you last week about data centers. Can you go into detail a little bit more for me, please?
Sure. So data centers are an interesting consumer of electricity. And they, if they're an artificial intelligence data center, then they present a noisy load to the grid if they're on the grid. So you don't want them on the grid. You want to keep them away from the grid because they can change the voltage and the frequency and everything else that's on the grid that will disturb the grid. So you want them to be what's called behind the meter, meaning that they generate their own electricity. Now, the reason that they are busy or noisy is that they draw 100 megawatts at some, and then within less than a cycle, so less than a 1/16 of a second, they'll only draw 50. So that's a big noise on the grid. That's why you don't want them on the grid. So that's it. I mean, a normal data center just has disks and servers, doesn't do that. But anything that's artificial intelligence, that's where it is. So.
Thank you. Chair will recognize Counselor Dante.
I'm noticing under inform and advise council, you have off-ramp options. Is that the off-ramp from Black Hills?
I think that's what it referred to. It was one of our brainstormed items.
Well,
We don't have any control to do that.
right, that's exactly what I was gonna say.
We just want to
have-
bring the information of what is options and available, but we're not trying to direct anything.
Okay, I want to continue on what I was saying. Yeah,
Diane, it may refer to, I'm sorry, Counselor Dante, it may refer to what happens in 2030. Because there will be an end of the franchise at that point, perhaps, depending upon what happens. So I think that's really what it's referring to, not necessarily, it's an exit as opposed to an intermediate off-ramp.
okay, so I guess my question is, we know that it's going to terminate in 2030, like you just said. Are you looking at what can be done at that point? Are you researching anything?
I just bring forward, that's the long-term situation, but this commission was put in place now for the long term. This isn't anything we're trying to calculate or do anything, but just get as much information as possible. So we're all aware of what's going to happen in 2030. What the outcome is going to be based off of information that moves forward that council decides on.
Okay, so I guess me as a counselor, what I'd like to see is you're looking into what we're going to do in 2030. And I would like for it to be started soon because you don't want to wait until like a year before.
No, and we agree. If you had 5 or 6 options versus one option, that's what we want to bring forward as different possibilities.
Right.
But again, that's totally up to council, what direction you go.
Thank you. We got that now.
The chair will recognize Counselor Gomez.
Yeah, I'm just curious. I was looking at some stuff here in reference to the Just Transitions Program funding. And it's in reference to losing coal jobs and how that's central and how some of that thing is, some of those impact Pueblo and those loss of jobs. Can you explain that?
That's under the research opportunities. So there may be opportunities with Comanche closing. Comanche closing, of course, is Excel's decision. And Pueblo, the Public Utility Commission is really kind of in control of whether that closes or not, I would think. Something that we could do, if you're looking for ideas right now, would be to propose a law for the state, that we get behind and have the state change their mandates. That would be something you could do. But we haven't researched that far enough yet to know what to do. We just started our subcommittee work.
So Xcel Energy hasn't reached out to you guys yet, you're not down that road yet?
No,
We talked
yeah,
with Black Hills, but not.
Yeah, right. And I think Exhale, we will reach out if that's the direction from council as far as different options. But we do want to bring whatever we bring where it does have their the pros and cons of what they're looking at.
Right, thank you.
The chair will recognize Counselor Boston.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to remind everybody and kind of inform everybody about this said commission. This was a commission that was operating under a different format, was abolished and then recreated under this new format. So it's a very fresh commission. If I'm not mistaken, you've only had 2 or 3 meetings only so far, right?
Well, this is the meeting that's most important to get
Yeah.
the feedback, but
I'm saying,
yes,
but as a commission, you guys are still fresh. You're still,
Fresh.
you're looking for
very fresh.
a lot
It's
of.
about 3 meetings to get our bylaws passed and start talking about some of the things we're
Moving
supposed to have
forward.
goal set.
Yeah.
This slide was done in right after the August 20th meeting, which was our second meeting.
Okay, so you're more so looking for direction from council on what to focus on.
Correct.
I would say, you know, as a community, one of the most important things when it comes to energy is affordable and reliable energy. Anything that we can look at in that respect, it would be great from this community. We all know our battles and our rates right now, so anything we can work on to try to get affordable, reliable energy for the city is, I think, of the utmost importance. And I'm sure we'll have some more information and more direction for you guys going forward, but looking ahead to the future, especially that 2030 option and what may the future may be is something to focus on, I would think as well.
Great. And then that's perfect to have that kind of feedback. I think that'll be perfect.
The chair will recognize Counselor Ayler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you guys for volunteering and being a part of that and serving your community. And, you know, obviously a very difficult subject matter when it comes to our energy costs, because, I mean, literally it's been a hot button for a long time. But quite literally, I think what we should work on is how to break down the barriers at the state level, which hold us hostage as a community and forces our rates to be what they are today. I've worked for 2 years trying to get lobbyists or people together, or even our local politicians, to champion, you know, community choice energy, trying to get support for that, because I think that may open up some avenues for us as a community. And quite frankly, when it gets to the state level, it's always just shut down. Nobody wants to have any conversations. Nobody wants to carry it forward. So the big question to me has to be, as a community, how do we overcome that obstacle that's happening in Denver that won't allow us to be in charge of our own energy future? And to me, that's very frustrating, because it's almost like we're held hostage as a community. And nobody will listen to us, because it's like, well, I mean, you can read into it whatever you want to read into it. Pueblo doesn't matter. There's not enough voters in Pueblo. Whatever it is, it's crazy. It's crazy that we can't get legislation, or we can't get people to even have the conversations to allow us to maybe go down different paths to energy independence. That's what I call it, because that's what it'll be, is Independence Day, when they turn us loose and say, okay, you know, you guys figure out how to come up with your best path forward. Because quite frankly, whatever you come up with, or whatever this council comes up with, is inevitably run up the flag at the state level. And if they're not interested in that happening in Pueblo, it's not going to happen in Pueblo. So I guess my rant is this: how do we overcome that? I mean, that's what we should really, in my opinion, be really working on, is how do we build that coalition at the state level, decision makers at the state level? How do we sell to them the fact of how important it is economically, jobs, development, our paychecks, every aspect of our life is tied to our energy costs. And it's just frustrating because I've been involved in this for a while now, and to me, that's the answer,
Well,
answer.
Councilman Aliff, I think you've hit where the problem is with today's politics. And when I brought up about the noise, there's a lot of noise that divides people and it gets you off of what the best result for a community is. And going off of what Councilman Boston said about reliable, affordable, sustainable, if that is the single focus that we're going to be committed to and not get going down rabbit holes and get caught up in battles and fights of things that take it off of, this is what's best for the citizens. So if that is a clear direction of council, it'll be a lot easier to work with lobbyists and the legislation, because you know what's happened with legislation. 80% of it is noise of division. And we're better than that here in Pueblo. And we've got time now that we can really focus on. And it'll be, and I feel that this is kind of a consensus of affordable, reliable, and sustainable, because we want this community and the people in this community to prosper and not get distracted. So Mark, I feel your pain because I've been there and I understand what that noise and division can do, and nothing happens. And 2 years later, we're having the same conversation. So we hope to be a tool in all of those directions to bring things forward that really speak to what the committed support of city council is. And I don't know if that answers your question, Mark, but it's not a simple question.
I didn't have a question. I mean, I wasn't trying to create a question. I'm just stating a fact.
Mhm.
Clean, affordable, sustainable, those are buzzwords. The reality is, no matter what you do, whatever this community tries to do will get stonewalled because there's no, let's just take the simple solution of community choice energy. If you can't even get that into a committee, doesn't matter if you guys decide that that's the greatest thing that could happen to the community is community choice energy. That comes out of your committee, right? This is what we should be.
Come out of our committee, yes.
This is what we should be working on. My point is, how would you get that? How can we as a community make that happen when there's so much against us to make that happen? That's what I'm just trying to say.
And to be corrected, it wasn't a question, it was a statement. And Mark.
Excuse me, gentlemen, the chair will allow 1 minute to respond and then we need to move on to
Okay,
some
I'm
questions.
sorry.
No problem.
My fault.
I would answer your question or your statement, your rant, by saying that I've been watching a Independence Institute produced podcast called Power Grab. They're on episode 97. I think episode 96 was pushing consumer regulated electricity, which means that it's talking about if there's a group of people, say industry, say out at the industrial zone out by the airport, they could regulate their own power. Now they'd be behind the meter. They'd all own a piece of it and they'd be behind the meter, but they could get electricity at the cost of gas. And that would be a way to attract businesses, but you got to push it so that that's a recognized form of regulation at the puck. And you to do that through legislation. So we've got 2 or 3, 4 senators and representatives that operate out of Pueblo, and we need to propose a law. We could write it ourselves if you so tell us to. And it's not that hard to write laws, is it?
No,
You
well,
guys-
and
Thank you
in
for
such,
your
if you guys are all united, it makes it much easier. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The chair will recognize Counselor Dante we'll give you an opportunity, Counselor Dante, to ask your question and 2 minutes to respond.
Okay. So when I was talking earlier, you were saying you wanted direction and I was trying to, I didn't give you an actual direction.
Mhm.
So that's what I want to do.
Okay,
I would like to see you do some research on where we're going to go in 2030 after our franchise agreement with Black Hills is terminated. Whether we're going to municipalize, whether we're going to bring in a co-op. There's several co-ops out there that we could investigate. I know that we don't have a lot of money and, you know, co-ops would be another way to go. And there's several of them out there. So that's kind of where I would like to see some research and information brought back to the council.
The chair will allow 2 minutes to respond.
That's the perfect kind of direction on it there. And we both took the notes, and that will be at our next meeting. That will be a conversation that takes place.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
The chair will recognize Councilor Gomez. Councilor Gomez, if you, no questions? No further? Anybody else have any other questions? Okay. All right.
Do you have anything, Mayor? Nothing?
Okay.
The mayor did come to one of our meetings and no other counselor has, or no other official has.
If you could help us with the schedule of when you all are meeting and we can.
First
is it
one
on?
state.
It's on there? Okay, great. Thank you. All right, gentlemen, thank you so much
much.
for the work that you're dedicating to make this happen for our citizens. I know it's a big deal for Pueblo, and thank you for your work, and we look forward to working with you.
Right.
Thank you for
Thank you
coming
so
this
much.
evening. All right, next on the agenda, the chair will recognize Andrew Hayes, Public Works Director. Mr. Hayes, when you're ready, the chair will recognize 15 minutes for your presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, members of council. Tonight, we're going to give a brief update on Pope Block. This follows a conversation previously brought forward by City Attorney Sykes. But wanted to give some background on the building itself, current tenants, those kinds of pieces of information, just to help inform you about the property and how we got here, if that makes sense. Okay. First, just a few pictures to show you kind of what we're talking about here in case you're not familiar with the Pope Block building. This is located at the corner of 4th Street and Court. This is from that intersection, actually looking kind of to the south and southeast. Pope Block building, in just a minute, I'll show you an overhead map. Also, it's 2 different parcels, 2 different buildings, and actually a third owner as well has an adjacent building built next to it, but it does not include that. So I'll go over that in just a moment. Some of the inside views of the building. This is the open floor space that's located on the 3rd and 4th floor. This was a prior call center at one point in time, but there's lots of cubicle space, office space, administrative space in the building. In addition, it does have some unique spaces. This is a kind of a ballroom, but it's used currently for meeting space. It does host different kinds of gatherings in there, but it does have a sound system and other things, so there can be events and other activities taking place in that ballroom. On this other side of the building with the ballroom, it's a little bit older. There's individual offices also, in addition to the kind of open floor space that's inside there. So this is the overhead that I was talking about. The portion of the building is kind of outlined in yellow, and the portion to the left of that are the 2 parcels that represent the Pope Block building. The gray roofed section at the bottom right is a different owner, different parcel, not part of the Pope Block building. Essentially, these 2 buildings were built adjacent to each other. The elevator shafts run right in between them. And so you have an elevator shaft that opens one direction on one floor, opens the other doors on the other side to the other floor. They're a little bit offset, but you have these 2 buildings that are essentially connected by these central elevator shafts. City most recently acquired the building after an economic development project went under. In the building reverted back to city ownership in 2014. So since that time, operations and maintenance have been taken care of through the half-cent sales tax fund. Currently, we're on order of magnitude around $1 million a year in preventive maintenance and repair contracts going on in the building, utilities and everything else for operating the building. Some specific recent capital investments on the building include roof membrane replacement, There's a substantial fire alarm replacement project, chiller replacement that was a surprise in there, and some elevator repairs. There are some challenges in the building with elevators. There's if anybody's familiar, the Arkansas River didn't used to be where it was, and there were other tributaries coming into the river. There's a tributary flowing under the building that it creates some challenges in the elevator shafts there. But those water issues are mitigated through pumps and other things, but it does require some exceptional care and maintenance to keep the building going. In addition, one other key aspect of the building that's important to note here is that the building does have a data center inside. If we ever were to dispose of the building, sell the building, or not maintain our interest in that data center floor, we need to be very careful about considering what the cost might be for relocating city's portion of the data center to another facility, in particular running fiber to the other facility. Relocating equipment from the data center is not a big deal, but the fiber connections to it would be substantial. And it's not just the city's fiber. There are other companies that also have fiber running in there that cross connect. Pardon me, again, we just went over that part. So the current tenants in the building, Unite Private Network, Toys for Tots, PBR, and ICOR are the 4 current tenants. This chart lays out their current lease terms, rents collected, kind of notes about each of the spaces covered by each of those tenants. Again, these leases vary from administrative office space use, data center use, and some storage space as well, primarily. Total leasable square footage in there is just over 100,000 square feet. And again, right around $1 million per year was the building expense in 2024. In 2025, we didn't have any major system replacements in there. But you can see also just below that, you can see the building revenues by tenant for the last 4 years. And I can come back to this too, as if we need to. But ultimately, again, this is a follow-up to a prior conversation, but some questions that were raised and questions and direction that we'd like to find is what is council's vision for city's long-term ownership or operation of the building? Do you have a specific strategy or approach with respect to leases in the future? Do we want to consider this building as a potential economic development project? How would it be considered? Or do we want to dispose of the building, sell the building? And so those are questions we'd like to get some direction from council on its vision for this going forward. That concludes my presentation. I will pause and take any questions you have to help fill in any gaps.
The chair will recognize Councilor Boston.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Minus the data center, sell it. That's all.
We've talked about a couple of options for doing that. If we retain, if we kind of minimize that space, or if there's other ways to relocate the data center, there's different options to be able to do that. Thank you.
The chair will recognize Councilor Dante.
Yeah, I'm looking at these leases. I'm not seeing expiration dates.
The lease terms are on the chart in the second column. So they're up on the screen right now too.
18, 28, 20. So they vary.
That's correct. There is not a single lease term for each of these tenants.
Okay. And then another question I have is back on another page, your capital investments.
The recent capital projects.
Are these completed or are these to be done?
These are completed. These are, so generally speaking, we don't have a capital investment plan there to recapitalize the building, given current status. These repairs have been done as repairs. Typically the chiller was an emergency, the fire alarm panel failures were emergencies. Elevator repairs had a little bit of notice that we had some time to get those repaired, but it was within the year, within the budget year that we had to bring that repair forward to get it fixed. So these are mostly corrective repairs.
So the elevator is operational?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
One other capital investment that I'd like to council be aware of, as I've mentioned before, with regard to the ICOR lease, there is the badge readers, which goes to the security system in the building. That project is going to cost somewhere around $50,000. ICOR is part of their lease currently
would repay the city or pay for a portion of that cost to about a cap of $25,000. But that we're still negotiating that lease. So that hasn't come before council yet, but that's a capital investment that will be coming before council here within the next month or so, as those negotiations hopefully come to a close.
So if you decided to sell this, it's in good condition. There's nothing that they're gonna come back to us after an inspection saying this needs to be fixed.
I can't guarantee that, right? I mean, an
But what I'm
inspector
saying is
walking
that
in.
you know of.
Sure. I mean, there are no, their HVAC systems throughout the building work. Are they ideally set for the operations of that building? Probably not. Or the elevators are functional. They're very dated. So anytime you buy or sell property, you can always have conditions on your offer. So I can't guarantee that nobody would ever come back and say, there's nothing that needs to be done. Their inspections and conditions would come back during that time if we were to try to put it up.
So I have a question. With all these leases, a lot of them in the future, can we still put it up for sale? Or do we have to wait until the leases expire?
You can list the property for sale. Anytime you sell a property, you could sell the property subject to those leases. The leases right now, 2 of them are set to expire in March of 2026. The only one that extends beyond that is Unite Private Network, which goes to June of 2028. PBR's lease has an option for 2 one-year renewals. They had verbally expressed the desire to renew that. They have not submitted, to my knowledge, at least they haven't to my office, and I haven't heard from the mayor's office. They had submitted a written intention to renew that pursuant to the lease term. So I don't know where they are as whether or not they want to extend that lease term. But they haven't as of yet. So that lease is set to expire in March of this year. Toys for Tots is set to expire in March of this year. So everything except for Unite Private Networks is going to be expiring here by March of 2026. I will tell you that anybody that has come to us with an offer to purchase this building has wanted us to give them the building. The mayor can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we've ever received any kind of cash offer for this building. Everybody that has come to us and wanted to take this building off our hands has always wanted us to give them the building. Now, if the city is willing to do that and give this building to someone, we could probably find someone to do that. I don't know what the viability is to try and find someone to come and give us a cash offer for the building.
The chair will recognize Councilor Gomez.
Just going back in my memory on this thing, was this the Qualmed building owned by Hassan at one time?
Yes, it is. That was the economic development project that essentially went south, and that's what we got the building back from. When Qualmed went under, the city took it back.
And one thing I've always been curious about, the name Pope Building, where the heck did that come?
I believe it was General Pope, right? Please go ahead.
There was a fire and there was a lawyer in one of the offices and he did not make it out and his name was Pope.
Is that right? Well, if we don't get rid of it soon, we're gonna call it the Ghost Building.
That's the historical name. Yeah.
Thank you.
What is the cost what would it cost to relocate the data center that's in there? Do you all have an idea?
I don't.
I do not have an idea, but I believe it would be millions of dollars.
The largest item of cost would be relocating the fiber infrastructure, right? We've got fiber that is in the streets running to the building, just on the city alone. If that data center was gone or not used, or the companies that are in there also need to relocate, it would be a significant expense for them as well.
And so it's not just the equipment, it's actually the fiber. So the fiber would have to be rerouted.
Correct.
Anybody else?
I have a question.
The chair will recognize Councilor Dante.
There is a building that the city was talking about selling, that what's it called? The Heritage Museum, I believe is what it's called. Huh?
I think you're referring to the building on B Street. Yes.
In Depot, yeah. And so would it be possible to move them into the Pope building rather than just putting them out on the street?
So I don't think there's any intent at this moment to put anybody out on the street.
Well,
The museum has expressed interest in potentially acquiring the building.
oh,
So
okay,
that we're in the process of getting an appraisal done and going through the process of making that announcement that it would be available for sale. But it was just last week that HR and Civil Service moved it into the new CAB building, so it's only been vacant for a few days here
okay.
on
It was just
the
a
city's
question.
end. Yeah,
Just
the
a-
museum is still there though and open, so definitely go visit.
I'm with Brett. Sell it.
The chair will recognize Counselor Hernandez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I noticed in your presentation that the $1 million upkeep for the building is paid for out of half-cent sales tax. The minimum amount of rent that you're paying, where is that credited?
Yeah, the rent goes back into.
It goes back
too.
to the half-cent sales tax. Everything is done in the half-cent sales tax. All the rent that's credited goes back to the half-cent sales tax fund.
That's all I had. Thank you.
The chair will recognize Counselor Latino.
I had something just said that kind of throws me off a little bit. We're talking about the historic museum over here. What are we talking about? Because those people over on B Street over there, is that what we were talking about? I mean,
No, the Southern
did I get
Colorado
lost?
Heritage.
Pardon me?
Southern Colorado Heritage Museum,
Yeah.
that's there. They occupy half of the city-owned building, not quite half, a little bit more than half, I should say. But the building where HR and Civil Service were in the western end of that building, the museum occupies about the eastern 3/5 of that building or so.
But we're not talking about moving the folks from the Heritage Museum. Okay,
No,
that's
the
all.
museum-
No, thank you.
Nobody's moving anything, but the previous discussions at the time when we talked about relocating city departments several months back, there was a discussion about potentially putting the building up for sale. And so
Okay.
that will be something that is forthcoming. We're right in the process of getting an appraisal done right now.
Thank you.
Have we ever done an appraisal on the Pope Block building? I mean, if we're
I
gonna,
don't think so.
Not to my knowledge.
Does anybody have any other counselors? Any
So,
other questions?
so just, I think we need to have a little bit more direction on the leases. Do we want to continue the leases? I know we've talked about it. We can continue the leases with the provision that the leases can be terminated should the building be sold. I mean, as long as the building is continued to be owned by the city, the rents that are in the building are offsetting the cost to maintain the building. I think it's in the city's best interest to maintain the leases as long as the city owns the building. I also think that we should get a definite, if the city wants to seriously sell the building and market it for sale, then we need to get some direction from city council about alternatives of how much it's going to cost to relocate that fiber and alternative locations to put the fiber, because I think that may be problematic. Because if we're going to maintain the fiber in the building and still try to sell the building, that may impact the sale as well. So is that what council would like to do, is have staff look into those alternatives of relocating the fiber and get an estimate for that and still maintain the leases, but without clauses so that the leases can be terminated if necessary upon sale? So that's what I'm gonna take from this conversation unless I hear somebody tell me no.
I'm gonna say yes.
Okay, all right.
Right. Anything else, counselors? All right, thank you so much. We're moving right along with your agenda. Next on the agenda, we'll invite Mayor Graham. The chair will recognize Mayor Graham for 15-minute presentation.
Thank you, Chair. This is going to be a refresher proposal for the amendment to the criteria ordinance for some of you. And this will be the first time you're seeing this proposal. If you were not heavily paying attention last year during all the conversations about this. So you have this in front of you. Tonight, it's a little bit different than the one that I had emailed you yesterday. So this is the half-cent sales tax criteria ordinance. So this guides how the city council, what the city council can approve, how they approve it, and what that looks like for the half-cent sales tax account. So you will see that the current criteria ordinance, it was approved by voters January 1st of 1992, and it was approved this last election. The 5 years will start over again in 2027. This is the question for that was on the ballot, ordinance number 9756. You can see ordinance 9756 and how it talks about the city council is authorized and directed to establish the ordinance by the criteria standards, rules and regulations, pretty much that the council sets forward. So along with the ballot measure, there was a criteria ordinance that was put into place that only city council can adjust. It's been adjusted over the last several years, one to include expenditures for the RTA, and another time to approve $5 million in half-cent sales tax that went to businesses during COVID for loans and grants that was ultimately paid back by state funds and is currently being paid back if you received a loan by businesses making loan payments every month. So why did I bring this forward originally? So last year I brought this forward, and we'll talk a little bit about this at the end, because we were having some trouble with development on the CDOT corridor on the boulevard and how we were going to be able to support new businesses coming into our community that weren't necessarily primary job related businesses. We wanted to help incentivize these businesses through infrastructure. One of those businesses that's still sitting there today unopened is a Starbucks. We'll talk about that in a minute. So these are companies, successful companies that the half-cent sales tax has supported over the last 10 years. You could see the company names on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, you could see the year and how many different companies were brought forward. And then in parentheses behind each company, you can see the amount of jobs. So it ranges anywhere from 7 jobs to 1,200 jobs when we incentivized Everest to stay in our community. These are companies that unfortunately have been unsuccessful in the last 10 years. Last Leaf Printing, Formula 55, United Technologies, Key Structures, Russ David's Wholesale, and IndyDwell. This is an updated economic development report from February. So this is our most recent report. You could see on the right-hand side, the companies that still have outstanding contracts, development contracts with the city. You can see whether they're current or they're delinquent. You can see the number of employees they're required to maintain, the number of employees they do maintain. If they met their commitment, if they haven't, what their base salary is, their average salary, and if they're meeting their base salary. On the left-hand side, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 businesses that are highlighted in the bright blue that have not been meeting their requirement. Key Structures, CAE, Coronado Stone Products, Rock Lavash, and Russ Davis Wholesale. So originally the city in some way, shape or form had incentivized these businesses to come in, paid cash to these businesses up front, and they have not been meeting their economic development contracts. And so now they have to pay money back to the city every quarter. So this is what they pay back to the city between these 5 businesses. It's about $246,000 a quarter. These are just some outstanding notes of different businesses that have come into the community and left for one reason or not. Sometimes the city went after these businesses, collected money, sometimes they didn't. One of the larger businesses you'll see is the QualMed. at a little over $6 million. That's also why the city obtained the Pope Block building. Those funds were never collected on. And as you can see, we have an inactive subtotal of a little over $8 million of funds that were received to companies that were never paid back, never collected upon. And this is as of probably July of last year. Since then, we have hired an accountant that works straight with the contracts that come after the half cent sales tax. We do site visits, we collect, we send invoices. We try to make sure that the community is receiving back their dollars that we've paid out if they are not meeting their proper job requirements that are set forward. This dollar amount was before my time and before we were doing it. So last year, myself and several staff members traveled to Castle Rock. We traveled to Grand Junction to kind of see what other communities were doing when it comes to incentive packages for bringing jobs, primary jobs, any kind of job, any kind of business that's going to create sales tax in the community. It's going to bring people to live. So one of the cities that we visited was Castle Rock. I understand that Castle Rock is much different than Pueblo, but at one time it wasn't much different than Pueblo, and they have been able to grow over the last several years. And they have many different kind of incentive packages that they use. They don't just incentivize primary employers. They do loans to businesses, loans to small businesses. They incentivize if you're going to build an office building because they have a hard time filling office space in Castle Rock. So their city actually incentivizes developers to come in and build office space. So it's a lot different than what the city does with our incentives. They do personal property tax, sales tax abatements. And these are really targeted as projects that are going to be economic catalysts, large sales tax drivers in the community. You know, in Castle Rock, they have lots of shopping. Those are the types of businesses that they like to bring to their community. In Grand Junction, they really focus on speed to market, public-private partnerships. They have a partnership actually with the college. They fund up to $500,000 to their college every year. And they do that in order to drive scholarships, and they try to partner with workforce. So they do trainings, they do certification projects, programs. They really set the curriculum for the different kinds of businesses that are in Grand Junction to try to incentivize students to graduate from the college and then stay in the community. So they give $500,000 every year in partnership to their college. They have a 0.75 sales tax to their economic tax fund. Again, much different than Pueblo's model with primary job only functions. One of the things they really do in Grand Junction is they do strategic land acquisitions. So they might go in and buy a piece of property that's being serviced in a certain area that has all of the infrastructure already provided there, land that's been sitting for a long time, that they know that they can subdivide and parcel out and sell to different businesses that want to come. So the city will actually use its funds, go in and purchase the property, and then advertise the property to try to get businesses to come in. So again, just something different that they do. They incentivize their chamber at $40,000 a year. They also have an incubator similar to what our BTC is, where they try to help small businesses to grow. When I was there in April, one of the businesses they had that was super fascinating was they had somebody who had invented a floor that would lay on in Amazon warehouses that charge the robots 24 hours a day. So the robots didn't have to stop work and go plug in and charge. So it didn't take away from their assembly line. So this is a technology that was being developed that we got to see happening right in Grand Junction. It was really cool to see that and to understand that need. So my proposed change, as it was many months ago, is changing the criteria section of the ordinance, which would allow for 3 additional ways to spend the half-cent sales tax: promoting placemaking, preventing economic leakage, and supporting businesses that are going to be economic catalyst drivers that maybe necessarily aren't primary jobs, but we know based off of these businesses already being in Pueblo or businesses that we can call and see what kind of sales tax they generate into the community, knowing that these are large sales tax driving companies. So this is where I wanted to talk about why this ordinance was originally brought forward. We were having some trouble with CDOT and the different businesses that are going in that you've seen going in on the boulevard, specifically the Starbucks right next door to it is going to be a Chipotle. This developer is required to put a little over $2 million in for a streetlight, not that he didn't know that he needed it. But in order to get a bond to put a signal in, it's been a very long, drawn out process. That Starbucks was supposed to open the Monday after Thanksgiving, and has been sitting for months because he has not been able to do that. He also owns the property next door where the Chipotle is currently going in. And so my idea was to be able to use half-cent sales tax dollars to pay for the infrastructure that would be needed to go into areas. And this is an example of that area. So the city would go in, we would pay for the infrastructure to go in. We would have a development agreement with the developer over 10, 15 years in which he paid money back to the half-cent sales tax for that signal or for sidewalks or any other requirement that's being required on CDOT. We would get it done in a timely manner, and we would enter into agreements with each of these developers, and we would require them to pay a portion of that money back, yet also incentivize them for bringing their businesses that we know are going to be large sales tax generators to our community, which Starbucks, Chipotle, Chick-fil-A, McDonald's, I can tell you that those are very large sales tax generating businesses here in Pueblo. So that is just one example of where this change in the criteria ordinance could come forward. Unfortunately, if this was passed a year ago when I brought this forward, we would probably have many more businesses that would be open on the boulevard. Another example of placemaking would be Jellystone. So you heard when we brought this criteria ordinance forward, I think we had 27 developers here that night that either spoke in favor of this ordinance or submitted letters or testimony to city council. The developers of Jellystone are one of them. The way that the criteria ordinance reads now, the city would not be able to incentivize a placemaking project like Jellystone coming into the community because it is not tied to primary jobs. An example of economic leakage would be a Costco, a Super Target, or a Buc-ee's, as we spoke about before. These are businesses that people within our community drive to Colorado Springs or Castle Rock or far beyond to shop at some of their favorite places, and we cannot incentivize these businesses to come into our community. These businesses are multi-million-dollar businesses. They do not need $5 million in cash from the city's economic development fund. They need the city to cut the red tape, buy a piece of property, get it subdivided, land bank it, and get it ready for them. So when I'm talking about incentivizing these economic leakages, I'm not talking about writing a check to Costco. That would probably not be necessary, but purchasing a 40-acre piece of land for Costco to come here and then knocking on Costco's door saying, hey, we have this land ready for you. It has utilities, it's been subdivided, it's ready to go. Those are the kinds of economic packages that I am talking about when it comes to economic leakage and the half-cent sales tax money. So as of May 2025, sorry, let me reverse a little bit. So we had met with Pedco originally on this, and they had asked us to put in a percentage of the total amount that could be used in a given year. We agreed to bring to city council 15% of the total unencumbered balance we could use up to in a year. Some projects may not cost anywhere near that. Some projects could go and above and beyond that. I don't have a specific example of what that could look like, but just know that that's possibility. It's city council's purview and city council's decision. at that point. So as of May of 2025, what that would look like as an example, 15% of that $63 million. And I think as of last week, we had about $62 million. So this is a good example of what was in there. As of May, the half-cent sales tax gains about $1 million a month. So we've used some of that money for the airport, so that's why you will see a reduction. So an example of the dollar amount that we would be able to use in one calendar year would be 9.4 million out of the 62 million to do these 3 additional types of economic development with economic catalysts, economic leakage, and placemaking. Again, city council will have sole authority. It would be brought to you just as every economic development deal should be brought to you. And where you would decide if this is a good use of the taxpayer dollars. And that'll conclude my staff report. Happy to answer your questions. The reason I bring this to you tonight is because you had it on first reading last Monday, and it will be on final reading on February 23rd.
Thank you, Mayor. The chair will open up the meeting for questions. I'll begin with recognizing Councilor Gomez.
Yeah, I'm just curious, can you explain what Advanced Pueblo is?
Advanced Pueblo, Councilor Gomez, is it's an initiative that's bloomed out of my office. So it's city departments who work together to coordinate between utilities, the Urban Renewal Authority, and help if developers are looking for incentive packages. Previously, we would send them to our previous partner at Pedco. Now we're kind of dealing with if people are looking for incentives and bringing them straight to city council. So it's just a group of individuals that meets similar to how you came and met with us last Friday night. That's kind of what we do, is just talk about different packages and incentives. But we use city staff to do it. Because they know the ins and outs of utilities, subdivision, planning. That's pretty much
the
what it is.
ultimate goal to replace Pedco with Advance?
I'm sorry?
Is the ultimate goal to replace Pedco with Advance Pueblo?
It could be. Necessarily, that's not something that we want to do full time. We'd like to start groundwork for what we think should be a good process when developers come to city council, looking for incentives like applications. And then we would hope to pass this on to somebody that could do this full time. We did send out an RFQ. We got 5 proposals back. We are going through those proposals still to see if any of the proposals would work for the city.
I just have a lot of problem with it. I think you're in the fiduciary lane of the council, and you're the executive branch or the legislative branch. And I think you're really you're on thin ice on this. I'm very concerned about if you know the difference between a retail job and a primary job. Do you know what that is?
I do. Thank
Can you
you.
explain it to me, please?
Well, a retail job does not create additional jobs, secondary jobs like primary jobs do. But what retail jobs do create is sales tax. And since the city is in a shortfall, what I think we need to do is look at other options and how we can create sales tax, which would be an economic catalyst. So not just primary jobs, bringing businesses to Pueblo that are going to generate additional sales tax.
Can I assume if you're trying to promote Advance Pueblo, that you think you can do a better job than Pedco that just recently got voted for another, 5-6 years to can continue to access the half-cent sales tax? You think you could do a better job, right?
I can tell you that I would do a more honest job than what Pedco has been doing for this community. And I can tell you that the voters did not vote for Pedco to be in control. They voted to continue to pay a half-cent in their tax dollars in order to incentivize businesses to come to our community. Had nothing to do with Pedco.
That's completely not true. All right, thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
The chair will recognize Councilor Hernandez.
Thank you. Mayor Graham, with regards, going back a little bit on the half-cent sales tax initiative payouts to old companies as opposed to new companies that we're doing business with, have we changed the way we pay that out? Meaning, well, maybe you already know what I mean.
Sure. So previously, we would just approve lump sums of millions of dollars and give it to communities, to people coming into our community, not really have any oversight. If they had the jobs that they said that they had, we didn't really have anybody checking in on that. And so now our philosophy moving forward, and what I would say that Advanced Pueblo would really want to do is make sure that these positions are actually held for a period of time before the city would incentivize these businesses. So if you came to the city and said, you know, over the next year, we're going to be able to hire 50 new employees, we wouldn't necessarily give that money in a lump sum up front. We would check maybe periodically, depending on what city council. So maybe it's quarterly. We want to see how many employees, and we would pay you in a reimbursable way and not upfront dollars, which I think protects the assets of the community much better.
So it could eliminate the need for you to go back and claw money back from people who aren't meeting their obligation.
Yeah, and that happens, you know, more than you think. One of our frequent flyers on this list is Rockla. In my first year as mayor, Rockla had really not been paid a lot of attention to, and they actually owed the city $1.3 million because they had never kept the jobs that they said that they were going to keep. And it took my office contacting Rockla to come to Pueblo and make sure that that debt was paid back to the half-cent sales tax fund. So we don't want to do that. We want to make sure that these businesses are being incentivized accordingly.
In your three areas that you highlight, economic catalyst, economic leakage, and placemaking, would a company have to meet one or more of these criteria or just the one?
They could just meet one.
I might be getting ahead of the game a little bit, but on the south side of Pueblo Boulevard, opposite where we're having development right now, is this the kind of money that can be used to get that area ready for companies, businesses wanting to come in?
It could be used for any kind of economic development catalyst. So depending on what those businesses would be on that south side coming into the community, if city council thought that they were going to be an attributor to high sales tax, economic leakage, or some kind of a placemaking, that would be up to city council to decide on an incentive package moving forward.
And finally, my last question, 15% is what we would change the criteria for what is unencumbered in the current balance for that year. So it's not necessarily 9.4 million every year. We hope it's more, but it could be less.
You hope it's more, but it could be less. If you had a large project come in, it would only be 15% of the unencumbered balance. So today it sits at about $62 million unencumbered. If no economic development projects come forward in the next year, you're going to have well over 70 million.
Okay, so if my math is right, and I apologize, another question. We have probably 21 million or 20 million of money that's already spoken for out of the half-cent sales tax.
So that would be if it was encumbered, and for it to be encumbered, it would have had to come to city council and have approval in an open meeting.
So the difference between what we currently have and what is unencumbered is just money that hasn't been paid out at this time? Hasn't been used?
It has been paid out if it's encumbered. So the 62 million has not come via ordinance to city council to be approved for any incentive packages.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You're welcome.
The chair will recognize Counselor Dante.
I'm a little confused.
Okay.
Let's talk about placemaking. I'm not familiar with what Jellystone is, but the way I'm reading this is you're bringing in entertainment, tourist type thing.
Tourists, yeah. So if you're familiar with when you're driving to up north, right past Monument, almost to Castle Rock, Jellystone is that community that's off to the left. They have like trailers and cabins where people come and rent a space for a weekend.
It's like camping type.
Like a campground, yeah. So it wouldn't be necessarily directly tied to a primary job, but it would be placemaking. It would be, we hope that tourism skyrockets if we brought something into our community like a Jellystone project.
Reason why I'm asking that is that up on the Catalyst project, you have an aquatic center, and that would seem to me like it would be placemaking?
I think it could be either, depending on how much we're charging. And I guess it could also be economic leakage if we have people within our community. I hear President Aliff talk a lot about the swimming meets that they have up north, and we don't have a pool that's big enough to have those kinds of meets here in Pueblo. So if we wanted to do that and put that into our aquatic center, it could really be any one of the three: placemaking, economic catalysts, or economic leakage, because we have athletes that join teams that are in Colorado Springs, because we don't have the facilities to support those kinds of athletes in our own community.
Okay, so the economic catalyst is not just infrastructure then, goes beyond that.
Well, infrastructure and the fact that we would be building the facility. So we wouldn't necessarily be writing somebody a check. We would be putting the aquatic center up.
But we would get reimbursed.
On that project is specifically slated to be a city project. So I don't know that we would necessarily get reimbursement on an aquatic center. If it was an outside entity coming in to spend money, that could be part of an economic deal where the city loaned money out of the half-cent sales tax fund, and then is repaid back over time, or it could be part of their incentive package just to bring that up to a certain percentage or X amount of dollars that we would forgive.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Chair will recognize President Aliff.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, we both sound like broken records, but you know, in reality, the big thing is, and I think you started that off when you began your presentation, and you know, we've been doing economic development one way for a long, long time. And I think there was always a lot of frustration over the last, I don't know, 5 to 10 years of we're not doing enough, or the perception was we're not doing enough. And I really like the fact that if we can tweak it and we can make it better, and we can make it more advantageous to us as a community to create sales tax, to create new opportunities within the community, it's just a no-brainer not to do it. So, you know, I'm very supportive of it, and I hope that it passes.
Thank you.
The chair will recognize Councilor Boston.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I'm happy to see this come back. You know, I actually really was hoping, I'm sure if people remember, that we could run this as the ballot measure, not the original criteria ordinance, so that people could weigh in on this as well. And it was unfortunate that the council did not let them vote on that. But again, I agree completely with Councilman Aliff. You know, we've tried things one way for a long time. We had a lot of people come in here and agree that, you know, it did need tweaked. So I'm glad to see it back, and I hope we can do some more good things for Pueblo with this.
I think to add to both of your points, that if it's not working, you just change it back to the way that we were doing it. That's 100% up to the city council to reduce that additional add to the criteria ordinance. It's really in city council's hands to who you want to incentivize, how you want to incentivize. This just really gives you more tools in order to do so.
Mayor, I have two things. First of all, with this, when you talk about economic leakage, could some of these projects that would be covered under half-cent sales tax be something outside of retail business, like perhaps healthcare folks coming in to provide supports that the community is not receiving and have to leave the community to obtain?
Councilman, I think if you could draw it to people moving to our community and spending more money, I think that that's one way that you could draw it. It would have to be very specific in how you look at that. You know, one company that did reach out to us when I first became the mayor was a vet who was looking at coming to our community and was looking for some office space and what they could do. And we know what a need veterinary services are for our community. And they were just looking for some guidance, maybe a building. And so I think that something along those lines, because people are going out of our community and paying for emergency vet service or vet service just in general, because we don't have enough. Bringing new vets to Pueblo along with new jobs. We know that, those jobs in the vet industry are high paying jobs. That could also be tied to some kind of economic leakage. Because we know how often we're having to drive to the Colorado Springs ER because we don't have a facility like that in our community. So you could tie it that way too.
Thank you. The other question or the other comment I would have as we begin to look at this, what concerns me here is that we've get allotted so much money that we've lost that we don't get a return on. So I just want to know and curious about like what kind of metrics can we provide as we develop this ordinance that says, I like the piece about I work in healthcare and we are government funded. So like they'll say, you're going to get $20 million. I don't know how much it is, but $20 million, and you have to demonstrate over a quarter that you've done XYZ. If you don't, then you have to pay back the money. So I'm wondering if that would be some consideration in that, and I don't know how we would go about thinking about those metrics to provide oversight in how we utilize these funds.
And we are now providing oversight in the contracts that we still have that are outstanding. Moving forward, we would like to pay the money or have some kind of collateral that the city can go back on, whether it's a building or a piece of land, that if we're going to give you $2 million, we want to know that you have a piece of property that the city can take if you do not meet your requirements set forth in your economic development contract. So it's really part of the contract and how we lay that out, and really what works for the city and what works for the business coming forward. Because you're going to have some businesses who don't have that kind of capital investment up front. But I would ask, that the internal committee then look at their financials, their projected revenues. Maybe they have a Department of Defense contract that they're going to be receiving, and they don't have any money in the bank, but they're about to get money. So we would like to see all of these different aspects before we enter, into an agreement with anybody that we're going to be incentivizing.
Thank you. The chair will recognize Councilor Gomez.
Yeah, I'm just curious. A lot of phone calls I've gotten recently is the fact that people are concerned that you're overstepping your boundaries. For instance, one of the calls I get an awful lot of calls on is, how did you appoint yourself to sit on urban renewal? And you're the only representative of this chamber or of this government that's sitting there now. That's number one. Number two, I'm concerned about when Councilman Flores was part of the dais, that he was concerned and that he was even trying to offer up that maybe we could allow 10% into the sales tax. And I warned him then. I said, you're going to find out quickly. You're going to go from 10, the door's going to be open, then it's going to go to 15, which is it now, just like I predicted. What is the problem with you and Petco? Why do you have such a sour disposition with Petco? What's the problem?
Point of order, Mayor, I will allow 1 moment for you to respond to the questions that are relevant to the topic here.
I would say that none of those questions are relevant to the presentation I presented tonight, Councilwoman.
Thank you. The chair will recognize Councilor Latino.
Thank you. When you visited Castle Rock or Douglas County, what branch in their particular city government handles the recruitment and enhancement of the community in terms of business possibilities?
So they do it a little similar and different to the way the city does. They have an economic development person, and they also, when I met with them, they have a city manager and a mayor, and they had internal city staff who were in all of our meetings and took us around. So it's kind of a mix of what we've been doing over the last couple months.
So Douglas County, obviously, and Castle Rock, Douglas County obviously being bigger than Pueblo. So you're telling me that they work together? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Are we really working in close proximity with the Pueblo County Commissioners?
On a project of large magnitudes that I would say that would impact the city and the county. The county does not collect any kind of economic development tax or fund, so they don't really have a say. But if if it's a countywide need, we do reach out to the county commissioners in that aspect.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The chair will recognize Counselor Hernandez. Counselor Hernandez, I will yield a moment for you to forward your question and allow 2 minutes for Mayor Graham to respond.
Thank you. Just two questions. Anybody right now could bring something before city council for approval of approved use of the house and sales tax, whether
Absolutely.
it be a partner, my neighbor, or anybody, correct?
Absolutely.
And it's still city council's responsibility to either approve those or not.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You have to excuse yourself, you're in conflict.
The chair will recognize Counselor Dante. Counselor, I'll recognize you for a moment to pose your question and 2 minutes to respond.
My question is, what department is doing the oversight?
In general, so it's the finance department. We have a specific accountant who does the oversight based off of the economic development contracts that are in place now. So he reviews everything that these companies send, tells the company if they owe us money, goes out and collects our money. He does site visits. City council approved that position in the 2025 budget. So he's been around for about a year. And you can see that that is why the city is now collecting upon contracts that were not met previously. In my first year as mayor, I don't think that anybody had any oversight, and that's why you had Rockla, who had such a large balance that they owed back to the city. That's not something that our economic development contract with Pedco asked Pedco to do. So it was at no fault of Pedco. It really should have been the city having more oversight to the companies that we were giving the funding to. But at the same time, the city should have been part of the contract process to make sure that we could do what was in the contract and that we could make sure that people were actually meeting their requirements.
Thank you for that information.
You're welcome.
I just have one question. What is going to happen with the folks who currently owe money? Like, is there a collection effort? What are the collection efforts?
Yeah, so if you go back to, I just show you on your little handout that I gave you. So these are the companies that currently owe money and they have to pay the city every quarter. So these are the 5 that we still have contracts with. Our contracts typically last for 7 years. And so we invoice these companies and they write checks back to the half-cent sales tax. Before my time, I can't tell you how the money was getting collected. If it was getting collected, in this slide, you see lots of money that wasn't collected. On this right hand, in this right-hand column, you see notes from the previous administration about how they were potentially just writing off if you did not pay the city back. So there's a substantial amount of money that was written off and never collected on behalf of the city. And unfortunately, we're out of time to go back and collect on these contracts.
Thank you. Chair, I'll recognize President Ayler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I believe Councilor Gomez did ask a question that was pertinent to this. And I just want to clarify something. When the criteria ordinance was originally presented to City Council, there was no percentages, correct?
There was, it was
wide open.
15%. So this is the same presentation.
This
that
is the same presentation?
This is the same presentation. The only change that I made today is to this slide. So President Aliff, I think you're talking about when I presented the ballot measure and we took the percentages out of the ballot measure. So I presented this as a change in criteria and then a change in ballot language. The ballot language was changed to a 0, but the criteria, this is the same ordinance that I presented to you last year.
Okay,
The 10%, I think, Councilor Gomez is talking about was, if you remember later on in the year, Councilman Flores did bring another ordinance back, which limited to only 10% of the fund a year. Yes, 10% of the fund a year, which did not pass.
All right. Counselors, any further questions for Mayor Graham at this point? Okay, Mayor Graham, thank you for your presentation. At this point in the agenda is now ready to move into executive session. Do I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I move to go into executive session for the purpose of determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and instructing negotiators under CRS Section 24-6-402, Parent 4, Parent E, Parent I, and more fully described as follows. Instructing outside counsel with respect to settlement negotiations of a pending claim. And for the purpose of determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and instructing negotiators under CRS Section 24-6-402, Parent 4, Parent E, Parent I, and more fully described as follows. Discussion of a potential PEDCO project, Project Falcon.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The council will move into executive session. The time is now 9:30 PM. This work session for Pueblo City Council is now adjourned.